Good afternoon. I am Youngsoo Chang, professor of the Department of Cultural Properties, Gyeongju University in Gyeongju, Korea. First of all, I'd like to express my gratitude to Professor Jung-Soon Kim, Keimyung University Silk Road Institute, for inviting to such an important and meaningful academic conference. Silk Road research in Korea is focused on the eastern on the East Turkestan region related to China, so there seems to be a limit to understanding the overall context of the Silk Road research. This study is a study on the Persian and Sassanians, and it is a hope that this study will be used as basic data to understand the overall context of the Korean Silk Road study. Today, I want to share with you the theme of East-West exchange in the field of costume culture, focusing on the analysis of Taq-i Bustan Reliefs of Persian Sassanians that you can see here. The purpose of this study is to analyze the costumes depicted in the Taq-i Bustan Reliefs to contextualize the types of costumes in the Sassanian dynasty, and to understand the phenomena of cultural exchange between the East and the West by observing the foreign cultural elements appearing in the Sassanian costumes at the time. There are only few prior studies in this field in Korea, so the literature of this study was collected from the German Archaeological Institute. The German Archaeological Institute is the institute that began with excavations in ancient Persia. For the analysis of the work, the researcher mainly used own data accumulated by visiting this site. Sassanian dynasty was a powerful dynasty that traded with the East and the West from the 3rd to the 7th century, when the Silk Road trade was activated in the Middle Ages, located in the middle of the Silk Road. On this basis, various elements of the Eastern and Western culture intermingled in the Sassanian dynasty. In this sense, it operated as a crossroad of cultures. For this reason, an analysis of Sassanian costumes is a good resource for studying the cultural exchange between the Eastern and the Western civilizations at the time. The source of the Taq-i Bustan reliefs show not only Sassanians' own style, but also elements of clothing from foreign cultures due to contact with neighboring countries. The clothing elements of the external culture observed in the Taq-i Bustan reliefs can be divided into two main categories, those of Greece and Rome and those of Central Asia. As since the costume style depicted in the Taq-i Bustan relief are also observed in Central Asia, where the Sassanians had political influence, the reliefs count as good data to estimate the exchange of costume culture at the time. Taq-i Bustan is located 5 kilometers from the city center of Keimyung in the heart of the Zagros Mountains. Taq-i Bustan means Arch of the Garden and is a site with a series of large rock relief from the era of the Sassanian Empire of Persia around the 4th to 6th century. The Taq-i Bustan relief was investigated in 1916 to 1917 by German archaeologist Ernst Herzfeld. The Taq-i Bustan relief consists of 4 parts. The first part is the inaugural relief of the Ardashir II, and the second is the figures of Shapur II and Shapur III depicted in a small artificial cave. The third and fourth parts are the inauguration relief and hunting scenes of Khusrau II. These parts are arranged in a large artificial cave. On the rock relief of the investiture of Ardashir II, three figures stand side by side. The central figure is Ardashir II. The right one is Mithra, god of light and sun, and the left one is Ahura Mazda, the creator deity and highest deity of Zoroastrianism. Ardashir II receives the ribboned ring, symbol of royal investiture, from Ahura Mazda. The small grotto of the two Shapurs is only a few steps away from the work of Ardashir II. In the arched area of the front wall, the only sculptures are the portraits of Shapur II and Shapur III. The two figures face each other strictly in the mirror image to the center line of the arch, the bodies in full front view. The large grotto immediately follows the small one. On the grotto's back wall, we see an investiture scene above in the semicircle Khusrau II between Ahura Mazda and Anahit, goddess of water. With its powerful realism, the figure of the Sassanian king Khusrau II is one of the most remarkable and effective creations of the entire epoch. On the right and left walls of the arch, there is a picture of the king's hunting. One scene depicts the imperial boar hunt, and the other scene shows the king stalking deer. It is the lively reproduction of animals that is particularly remarkable. The main contents are as following. First, the basic form of Sassanian costume. Second, costume elements that did not appear in the Persian costumes before the Sassanians. Third, clothing elements in other cultures which have influenced the Sassanian costume. Fourth, Sassanian costume elements appearing in the clothing of Central Asia. The basic form of Sassanian costume observed in Taq-i Bustan is a knee-length tunic and trousers with narrow sleeves. The tunic has a round collar and is belted at the waist and has side slits. This type was observed in kings, guards, and servants. Not the Sassanian clothing type itself changed according to the status and era, but rather partial clothing elements. In the inaugural relief of Ardashir II and those of Shapur II and Shapur III, the kings wear tunics with rounded bottom end. Hatzfeld describes this form as a modernized royal attire. The bottom end of the tunic of Khusrau II is straight. In consequence, it can be seen that the end of the king's tunic was changed to a straight shape at the end of the Sassanian dynasty. In the hunting scene reliefs, kings, servants, musicians wore tunics with a straight bottom end. Based on this fact, it is derived that the straight bottom end of the Taq-i Bustan tunic was common. In the Taq-i Bustan relief, trousers and its wearing methods are divided into two types. The trousers of Ardashir II, Shapur II, and Shapur III were tied with laces at the ankles and soles and decorated with round clasps. The trousers with many horizontal folds appear to be made of thin fabric. The trousers worn by Khusrau II were very wide and are tied with a ribbon at the instep, and it appears that they are made of thick fabric. The use of thin fabric and the motif of the goddess of victory, could be emphasized as a Greek influence, and the façon style of trousers with round clasp is a typical element of Central Asia. In the relief of Ardashir II inauguration ceremony, the trousers of Ardashir II, Auramasta, and Mithra are wearing trousers with pleats as if they are fluttering in the wind. It gives evidence for the assumption that these trousers were made of thin fabric. Shapur II and Shapur III also wore these trousers, suggesting that these trousers were the Sassanian trousers style until the end of the 1st century. In the early days of the Sassanian dynasty, the material for the costume was used with a slightly heavy fabric equal to such Parthians used. This fact is also observed in the graffiti depicted in Persepolis in the early Sassanian dynasty. And then, the Sassanians have adopted the Roman clothing culture at the beginning of the dynasty. The Sassanian nobles imitated the Romans' preference for thin fabrics that were as elegant as silk. In the relief of Dara made to commemorate the victory over the Roman conquest in AD 260, it can be seen that he is wearing light Roman-style cape and thin trousers. A spandrel over the arch of Taq-i Bustan represents the goddess of victory. It is a typical iconography that appears in the Roman and Byzantine empires. The production period is about the end of the 6th century and the beginning of the 7th century during the reign of Khusrau II. Khusrau II was a king who had very close relations with the Byzantine Empire. It can be presumed that the formation of the Byzantine Empire influenced the creation of the inaugural reliefs of Khusrau II. The winged goddess of victory depicted on an arch in Roman times has her long hair tucked behind her back. Her hair is fixed with a hairpin or diadem, and she wears peplus. On the other hand, the figure of the winged goddess of victory that appears on the icons of the Byzantine Empire is different from the Roman goddess of victory with short curly hair. The short-haired goddess of victory is also observed in the figure of a mosaic in the Basilica of San Vitale in Ravenna, 6th century. Hersfeld did not see the figure of short curly hair depicted in the church of San Vitale as the goddess of victory, but the figure of an angel, which he saw as an expression of the angel's masculinity. The winged figure depicted in Taq-i Bustan Central Arch had short curly hair compared to the Roman goddess of victory. This is closer to the image of an angel of the Byzantine Empire and can be understood as an element of Byzantine culture that influenced the Sassanians. The figure of the goddess of victory with wings in the ancient West Asia also appears in the figure of the goddess Greco-Bactria, which is observed in a disc depicting the goddess Cybele of Aichanum of Victoria, dating to the 2nd century BC. The goddess wears a high-waist robe fastened with a belt under the chest, was the typical West Asian style worn by the goddess of the ancient West Asia. This is different from the Greek peplus. This high-waist robe is a one-piece style that goes down to the ankle, while the peplus is a two-piece style with a long robe and a jacket that goes down to the hips. In the early days of Parthia, the Nike goddess wore Greek peplus. This form is observed in the Nike goddess of the Parthian coin on the left. However, the goddess of Muses depicted in Return of Nisa in Parthia on the right wear a West Asian style high waist robe. This is the Greco-Bactrian style of a Greek dress, a style that Peplus of Greece blends with West Asian traditions. The clothes worn by the goddess of victory of Taq-i Bustan are a tangible of a peplus type, but they are tied under the chest like a West Asian's high-waist robe. It can be seen that this style is a mixture of Greek Roman styles and West Asian styles. This figure is an icon showing the influence of Greek-Roman culture in the Sassanian dynasty. The figure of the goddess of victory is categorized into Greco-Roman style and Sassanian style. The depictions of Ardashir II, Auramazda, and Mithra in the inauguration reliefs of Ardashir II and the reliefs of Shapur II, Shapur III stand out with round ornaments on the pants around the ankle. This ornament appears to be a clasp that binds the ends of the trousers and holds them together with the shoes. This ornament is also observed in the Dara relief of Shapur I, dated to 230 to 260 in the early Sassanian dynasty. The Parthians did not use a round clasp and instead tied their clothes with a ribbon. This ribbon bundling style is the same style that appears in the early Sassanian dynasty, which followed the Parthian dress style. From the middle of the 3rd century, round clasp began to appear on the ankles, and it is also observed in the Shapur II reliefs of Taq-i Bustan at the end of the 1st century. And it is estimated that the two styles were used in parallel until the end of the 1st century. The style of clothing in which trousers were fixed using this decoration is a clothing element observed in the neighboring Kushan kingdoms. In fact, this ornament was excavated from the ruins of Tilia Tepe, the remains of the Kushan kingdom in the 1st century BC. We can see the details of it. This round clasp ornament was adopted and used by the Sassanians when they came into contact with Kushan in the east of the Sassanians at the beginning of the dynasty. Since the Sassanians are descendants of a nomadic tribe, many elements of a nomadic tribe appear in their clothing. Due to the nature of their lifestyle, riding horse, a commonly adopted fixation method for worn trousers was to tie them or put them into the boots. An example of wearing boots in the late Sassanian dynasty can be seen in the inaugural relief of Khusrau II. In Central Asia, the Sassanian dress type, the tunic and trousers appears. This can be seen as a result of accommodating the Sassanian costume culture, which is high-ranking costume culture in Central Asia. The elements of the Sassanian costume appearing in the Central Asian tunic are the side slits of the tunic, the bottom hem, and pearl-rounded patterns. The Sassanian tunic depicted in the Taq-i Bustan reliefs is characterized by side slits and the bottom hem, two elements commonly observed in tunics in Central Asia. Tunics side slits are open on both sides for the convenience of riding a horse. In the figure of King Hatra of Parthia, the king is wearing a slightly tied tunic that comes down to the knee with narrow trousers, and side slits are observed in this tunic. There is a decoration on the right side of the tunic, and the side of the tunic is open up to this part. Curves expressing wrinkles are depicted under the decoration. The left side of the tunic is depicted with a slightly longer back, which seems to represent a side slit. In the inauguration relief of Ardashir II, the tunic of Ardashir II forms a round circle at the bottom end and rises to the side, and the sides are open. The ends are decorated with several rows. The side slit is also observed in the tunic of Khusrau II in the hunting scene, so it can be seen the clothing element was used in the late Sassanian dynasty. A hem refers to attaching fabric pieces to the edge of a garment, such as collars at the end of sleeves, closure, and bottom of the garment. This hem is presumed to express a social function to indicate the identity and rank of the wearer by putting a pattern on the hem or discriminating the width of the hem. And it has a practical purpose to prevent the edge of the clothes from unraveling. In addition, depending on the tribes, it is speculated that it was used for magical purpose to protect the wearer from evil spirits. Among the reliefs of Taq-i Bustan, the ends of the tunics of Ardashir II, Shapo II, and Shapo III have a multi-lined hem ornament, and the ends of the tunic of Khusrau II are decorated with beads. You can see here the multi-lined hem, and here hem with beads by Khusrau II and Ahura. Also, in the relief of the hunting scene, there is a decorative hem on the end of the tunic of a nobleman riding an elephant. It can be seen that in the relief of Taq-i Bustan, hem was used for social purpose to indicate status, and the shape and material were used differently in different times. The hem at the edge of the tunic is very popular in the 6th to 8th century Sogdian tunic among Central Asian costume. Here you can see the nobleman of the Pentecost Sogd murals dating to the 7th and 8th centuries, and the servant depicted in the silver bowl. At the end of the tunic is attached a thick decorative hem depicting a pattern. Hem decorations on the edge of the clothes appear even in Sogd costumes, regardless of status, indicating that they were universal elements of clothing. At the same time, hem ornaments appear on the edge of the clothes in the costume of Kucha and Kizyl, an oasis city on the east side of the Silk Road, passing through Sogd. The decorative hem on the end of the musician's clothes, described in Kucha's funerary casket, is slightly raised from the side. In Kucha and Kizyl, the decorative hem at the end of the clothes is common to musicians, donors, and regardless of status. So it is presumed that the decorative hem was a universal element of clothing that appears regardless of status. Since trade with the Sogdians was active, the cultural exchange took place as well. Therefore, the costume elements of Sogd must have influenced this area. Consequently, it can be estimated that the decorative elements and side openings, which are the elements of Sassanian clothing, migrated to the east and became active in Sogd, and its influence extended to the eastern part of the Silk Road. A pale-rounded pattern is a pattern in which small circles in the shape of a round beads are connected in a circular band shape, or by making a rectangular frame. Here, the small bead-shaped circles represent pearls. Originally, pearls were thought to symbolize the soul, light, and goodness, and were thought to be the substance of the driving force for all births, and had a very auspicious meaning. The oldest pattern with a pearl motif, thought to be the model of a pearl-rounded pattern, was discovered in the Luristan Bronze Age. The Luristan imported pearls from the Persian Gulf Coast and used them as small circles and applied them as decorative patterns on the edge of the bronze items. This tradition was passed down to the Achaemenid and Persia dynasties of Persia, where it was used more preciously than gold. After that, the use of pearls and patterns using them were greatly activated during the Sassanian dynasty. In the pearl-rounded pattern, motifs such as an animal or flowers were inserted in the small beaded-shaped edge band. In the hunting scene of Taq-i Bustan appear patterns such as flowers and ducks inserted. In the tunic of Khusrau II and his servants in the hunting scene is depicted Simok, the guardian animals of the Sassanians, and in a round frame are depicted flower-shaped patterns and animals. Simok, the mythical bird in Persian mythology, the patron animal of ancient Persia, is a compound animal from lion and dog with bird wings and a peacock tail. It is an imaginary animal believed by the ancient Persians to have supernatural powers to protect humans and is often depicted in royal attire. This pearl-rounded pattern was activated and appeared in socked costumes of Central Asia in the 7th and 8th centuries. Simok and pearl-rounded patterns are observed in the costumes of Afrasiab Palace and Penjikent murals in socked Central Asia in the 6th and 8th centuries, suggesting an exchange between the two regions. In addition, the dog pattern can be observed in the king and servants of the hunting scene. It is also active in the socked costume and the Kucha and Kizyl regions of Ost-Turkestan. In the Zoroastric belief, bows had the task of fighting against the echoes of Ahriman, the embodiment of evil. So they were benefactors for mankind. These three regions can be viewed as either sharing the symbolism of dogs or appearing as a result of exchanges. Now I'll summarize the conclusion. In this study, by analyzing the external elements of Sassanian clothing appearing in the Taq-i Bustan relief and the elements of Sassanian clothing appearing in Central Asia, the phenomenon of cultural exchange was investigated through costume elements. The conclusions obtained in this study are as follows. The basic form of the Sassanian costume depicted in Taq-i Bustan reliefs in the knee-length tunic with narrow sleeves and trousers. In the Taq-i Bustan reliefs of the 1st century, the trousers of the gods and the kings were made of thin fabric and showed many wrinkles, a characteristic of Greek and Roman clothing. The goddess of victory on the spandrel above the arch of the large grotto are a Greco-Bactrian style in which Greco-Roman style were fused with West Asian traditions. The costume elements of the Kushan kingdom, such as the round clasp decoration, were also conspicuous in the costume of kings and gods on the Taq-i Bustan reliefs. Among the costume elements of Taq-i Bustan, there were also elements observed in Central Asia, such as the side slit of the tunic and the hem at the end of the tunic and pearl-rounded pattern. It can be seen that the elements of Sassanian costumes, the side slits and hem of the tunic, are transmitted to the east and spell more active in socked costumes. The pearl-rounded pattern was activated and appeared in soaked costumes of Central Asia in the 7th and 8th centuries. The simmer pattern appears not only in soaked but also in Kucha and Kizyl. This study is a study on the Sassanian dynasty, which played an important role in East-West exchanges on the Silk Road during the period when the Silk Road was active in the Middle Ages. As research in this field is still insufficient in Korea, this study is meaningful in that it provides basic data for research in this field. It is expected that the contents of this study will be used as meaningful data for in-depth research in this field in the future. Thank you for your attention.